Oh my God, guys, I think I found my favorite book for Black History this month. I'm talking February 2024. That. Let's talk about it. Okay, Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram Kendi. This has gotten a lot of press. It's been around for a few years now, too. I think it was written in 2017. Subtitled The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America. Nonfiction, obviously. I've had a good smattering in this month so far. I'm coming at you from February, right in the heart of Black History Month, by the way. I don't know when you're viewing this. Sometimes there's a delay between when I record this and when it actually hits. But anyway, yeah, it looks bigger than it is. It's 560 pages-ish after the endnotes. And it is fairly diffuse. You've got a fair amount of text on each page. But I didn't feel like this was a slog, It was a really, really good read. And my God, just so much detail. It sticks pretty close to, the subtitle there about the history of racist ideas in America. Gives you a tour d'horizon, if you will, of America right from its inception until the present day, 2017. Focuses on the main ideologies, I guess, that drove slavery and Jim Crow. So it's kind of split up into two ideologies for the most part. You've got the segregationists and you've got the assimilationists. Based on the words, you might be able to piece together what he's referring to. Segregationists are your real racist types. Segregationists were your dyed-in-the-wool, white supremacists that drove the institution of slavery from the get-go. They either subscribed to the view of polygenesis or monogenesis. Monogenesis, that being basically the Adam and Eve story, and the Hamitic myth that came out of the Great Deluge. There's also been this other sort of concept that was espoused of polygenesis, which is that essentially you've got two different kinds of curses working on the black race. That's their idea, where you had basically the black Adam and Eve. Not a biblical concept, but somehow they tried to square it with what the Bible was saying. You can definitely see the invasion of European race science. The origins of not right at the beginning, but as it progresses, as Darwin gets to be a big player on the stage, you get to see even amongst religious groups who are not, they didn't sign on to the full evolutionary, kind of atheistic points of view that Darwin was sympathetic to or grappled with. It actually reminds me a lot, in certain ways, it reminds me of, what was her name? Louise Mishkawabo. Rwanda means the universe. And she shows how, this craniometry and European race science and all of this bullshit that was foisted on the African race and really drove a lot of the local hostilities in Congo and Rwanda. She narrows in on that and shows how, the genocide that happened in Rwanda, carried out by the Hutus against the Tutsis and the Twa, really did stem from all of this nonsense that was constantly, forced on the black races in Africa. And so you kind of have that similar argument, I guess you would say, in this book. So that's the segregationists, and the assimilationists are devoted to a kind of mythology or doctrine, probably is a better word, of black uplift suasion. That's what it's referred to. And in fact, that predominates through a lot of novels and black literature that I've read. For example, I read a book a few years ago. This was an advanced reader's copy that I was given. It was called The Black Intellectual Tradition. And, they talk about this uplift suasion that was so prevalent and is still prevalent in many ways. If you want to think of somebody, even someone who's black, that subscribes to this failed ideology, is like Thomas Sowell. Or Clarence Thomas. These guys, they kind of personify these views. And the view is, if you don't live up to the whites' expectation of blacks, that is to say, if you don't resist, and if you don't behave in the ways that this kind of oppression is going to make people behave naturally, then, these racial stereotypes will fizzle out and die. And then blacks will be given their due, and they will have more power in society, and both soft power and actual power in the real world. This is a failed ideology. And in fact, it even shows how there were many blacks, especially in the antebellum era, where that was just the prevailing view. That was the progressive view of black people, that we've just got to act better, and we will be taken seriously finally. You had people like Garrison, the great, amazing abolitionist, probably the most iconic. He espoused this view. Booker T. Washington espoused this view. Even very recently, even if you need a modern historical figure like Martin Luther King, even he espoused this view up until the latter part of his life, when he started to change tune and become a little bit more sympathetic to the truest sort of iconic anti-racist, which was Malcolm X, who started devising or conceptualizing black history and the story of black emancipation through the lens of self-defense, and which is a view that I'm becoming increasingly sympathetic to. I don't espouse all of the violence, of course, and the corruptions that we see in BLM and things like that. But I definitely see this through the Palestinian type lens, that there needs to be some form of resistance. The whites, when we speak about our history, we elevate the voices of Samuel Adams and Thomas Paine, and Washington and Benjamin Franklin. And while they were sophisticated people, they glamorized valor and rising up against your tyrants violently. And Ibram Kendi, he expresses some sympathy for that. He does say that the ultimate solution here is to advance anti-racist values and ideas, not just as black people, but as their allies too. We need to start speaking of the African American experience and people and background in the way that it deserves. We're talking about a group of people with no fundamental genetic differences. He mentions it in here that all races are 99 point whatever it is the same. There are no real tangible differences, genetically speaking, between one race and the next. So put your craniometric calipers away already. Nobody's culture is any better than anybody else's. So stop with that nonsense. And let's start treating each other as actual equals. Stop peddling in unfair and antiquated and wrong racial stereotypes. I can definitely see why this was a New York Times bestseller and a National Book Award winner. I think that his scholarship was perhaps the most impressive. Yes, he's still got his bias. Everybody's got their bias. I know that this got a fair amount of flack, even though it was so well put together. In fact, as I recall, I might be wrong on this, but my impression was that this was sort of sidelined along with his doctrine of anti-racism that he's really trying to promote here. This was sidelined kind of the way that Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility was sidelined. You've just given up all hope on objectivity. Whites aren't all that bad. Stop being oversensitive and all of this. I've seen even a lot of people that I profoundly respect, these certain thinkers and philosophers, commentators whose politics I generally agree with, even take that position on this book. And I think it's uncalled for. I really do. Robin DiAngelo, I'm a little more sympathetic to some of the criticism that she faced. But it's so well put together for any scholar. But I have to say, so this was written in 2017, right? Let me just make sure I'm not spewing nonsense. So this was written in 2016, actually. I think that Ibram Kendi is 41. I looked this up recently. So that means that he would have been approximately my age when he publish this. And that is impressive. I mean, the breadth, his vernacular, he knows his shit. It's unbelievable. There's so much detail in here for a scholar of any age, but a scholar of my age to come out with this, a hefty, well-researched tome. You have to read it, guys. It's really the highlight of Black History Month for me. So I think because I could go on forever about this, and then there wouldn't be a need for you guys to read it if I spoil everything about it, I think I'm going to leave it there. Please let me know in the comments, like, what did you guys make of this? I'd really love to hear your breakdown on this particular book. I'd really love to chat with you. As always, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, I hope you liked this video. If you want more like the one you just watched, click the suggested video on this screen. Make sure you subscribe, and to connect with me on my other platforms, my handles are linked below in the description, alright? Take care, peeps. Till next time.